we can start.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this session of the AI Week. I hope you had a good morning. So this 2-hour session actually is dedicated to Brussels, and especially what we want to do is to shed some light on the R&D AI ecosystem in Brussels. So this for both the industry and also the academia. So several success stories will be presented, as well as our FARI flagship project. There's actually an agenda that I'm gonna walk through now, which you see here. So we have the chance to have an opening address by our Secretary of State, Barbara Tract. Then we will actually deep dive with Stéphane Song-Thibault into the, I would say, the framework we are working in. That's the Brussels Regional Innovation Plan. We then have our startup session, where we will highlight 3 startups of the region, talking with environment, mobility, and inclusion. And finally, FARI will present its activities and also emphasize the role of ethics in AI. There's virtually no time for Q&As. However, if you have some key questions, please write them in the chat. We'll see if time allows. If not, all the speakers have confirmed to me that they are really willing to answer your questions offline, right? So if you all agree, and even if you disagree, we move ahead with first the opening address from Barbara Tract. So Barbara Tract is our Secretary of State in Brussels for Economic Transition and Scientific Research. I give you the floor, Barbara. Thank you.
Oui, bonjour, merci. Bon, j'espère que même si vous n'avez pas le choix de m'entendre, vous allez quand même apprécier ce que je vais dire. Je suis très contente d'être avec vous en ce début d'après-midi pour cette séance qui est donc destinée aux initiatives bruxelloises en matière d'intelligence artificielle. C'est un super programme, hein. Je m'en réjouis, même si, hélas, pour ma part, je ne pourrais pas rester très longtemps, mais je me rattraperai. Ik ga u eerst iets in vertrouwen vertellen. Toen ik aantrad als staatssecretaris voor wetenschappelijk onderzoek, kreeg ik vragen over de middelen die het gewest ter beschikking stelde om artificiële intelligentie te ondersteunen. En het is een feit dat het Brussels gewest veel kleiner is dan de andere 2 Belgische gewesten. Toch gaat een heel groot deel van het budget van Innoveris naar artificiële intelligentie. In 2021 werd bijna 30% van het totale budget besteed aan projecten waarbij artificiële intelligentie een rol speelt. Donc l'intelligence artificielle a une place centrale, très, très importante dans les financements que nous accordons à la recherche scientifique en dépit de la taille de notre région. Et quand on a co-construit le plan régional pour l'innovation, on a clairement perçu le dynamisme et la créativité du secteur, et c'est pourquoi on a identifié un domaine d'innovation stratégique lié aux technologies et aux services numériques avancés. Alors ce domaine repose forcément, puisque c'est un domaine d'innovation stratégique, sur un écosystème innovant et fort actif à Bruxelles, et donc c'est notre volonté de le renforcer, mais le renforcer avec pour ambition qu'il contribue à la transition de l'économie bruxelloise, c'est-à-dire qu'il se mette au service des objectifs environnementaux, des objectifs sociaux, de l'émancipation des Bruxelloises et des Bruxellois, aussi de nos objectifs démocratiques que nous nous sommes donc fixés, que nous étions déjà fixés en 2019. Cette ambition, donc, nous l'avons fixée à l'intelligence artificielle à Bruxelles, et elle se traduit concrètement dans 2 projets structurants. D'abord FARI, qui est l'Institut en intelligence artificielle pour le bien commun, qui est un projet qui a été porté, créé grâce à l'ULB et à la VUB. Il développe des solutions en intelligence artificielle centrées sur l'humain, en respectant l'éthique, Et un centre de service en intelligence artificielle sera ainsi développé pour permettre la création de prototypes ou des proof of concepts. Il y aura également un lab qui permettra de mettre en situation et de tester des nouvelles applications technologiques ou robotiques dans un format de Living Lab avec des citoyennes et des citoyens. Ça, c'était le premier projet. Deuxième projet, c'est Sustain.Brussels. Dans Sustain, il y a AI, comme vous l'aurez certainement remarqué. Et c'est une autre initiative bruxelloise dans le domaine qui a déposé auprès de la Commission européenne ce qu'on appelle un projet de European Digital Innovation Hub. On attend d'ailleurs depuis fort longtemps la réponse de la Commission qui est à chaque fois reportée. Mais sans attendre cette décision, on a déjà décidé au niveau du gouvernement bruxellois, il y a déjà bien longtemps, de le soutenir. L'idée, c'est aussi d'aider à la digitalisation des petites, voire des très petites entreprises. Donc, on veut par là aussi participer au dynamisme entrepreneurial bruxellois et permettre aux plus petits acteurs de l'économie de participer aussi ou de bénéficier aussi de la digitalisation et de l'intelligence artificielle. Donc ces deux projets, ils sont portés par le pouvoir public avec des chercheurs, mais aussi au service d'entrepreneurs et d'entrepreneures, de citoyennes et de citoyens bruxellois. Parce que comme le disait Stephen Hawking, il faut bien un moment, il faut faire des citations, la création de l'intelligence artificielle serait le plus grand événement de l'histoire de l'humanité, mais ça peut aussi être l'ultime. À nous donc de nous assurer que l'intelligence artificielle bruxelloise soit bien au service de la transition écologique, économique, de l'émancipation des Bruxelloises et des Bruxellois pour offrir un avenir désirable, durable et solidaire aux Bruxelloises et aux Bruxellois, aux entrepreneurs, aux futurs entrepreneurs, masculins comme féminins, et au bénéfice aussi du reste de la planète. Zo vanmiddag hoort u de ervaringen van verschillende ondernemers en innovatoren. Ik ben trots op dat zij konden profiteren van de steun van Innoviris en ik hoop dat de projecten u zullen inspireren om het Brusselse ecosysteem verder te laten groeien. Je vous remercie pour votre attention. Ik dank u voor uw aandacht. Ik wens u nog een fijne namiddag vol constructieve en stimulerende uitwisselingen. Bon après-midi et j'espère que les échanges seront à la fois inspirants et stimulants pour chacun d'entre vous.
Alors, merci beaucoup and thanks for your continuous support for R&D and AI in particular in Brussels. Let's continue. I'm gonna go back to the agenda that you have here. I hope you have it here. So the second session is given by Stéphane Song-Thibault. So Stéphane has got a PhD from Stanford. He has had various management positions in technological companies, both in the US and in Europe. And we have the chance for 1 year to have Stéphane as director of Innoviris. Stéphane, the floor is yours to present us our framework, which is the Plan Régional d'Innovation, Regional Innovation Plan in English. Thank you, Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And thank you, Madame Trachte. So I will share a screen with some slides. Can you confirm, Jonathan? Can you see my presentation?
All good, Stéphane, thanks.
Perfect, thank you very much. So hello, everybody, and welcome to a presentation about the strategy of around artificial intelligence for the Brussels capital region. So today, for the people who are not from Brussels or from Belgium, I'll briefly introduce what the Brussels capital region is about and why we are good at innovation and artificial intelligence. Then I will present the regional innovation plan overall. What are the goals of this plan? Then I will focus more on the artificial intelligence part. And finally, I will say something more about the offer of Innoviris. So Innoviris is a public organization in Brussels, and we are a funding agency responsible for encouraging research, development, and innovation in our region. So first, Brussels capital region. So we are a big urban area of a little bit over 1 million people. We're very international, 185 nationalities, also hosting a lot of international institutions such as the European Union and its different components. Very densely populated. We have per capita high GDP, And as you can imagine, in Brussels, there's very little economic activity in the primary and secondary sector. The activities in our region are mainly around services in the broadest sense of the word, including trade, healthcare, education, and also science and technology. Now, Brussels is a very innovative place. As a matter of fact, we can call ourselves, since about a year, an innovation leader. So the European Commission, they organize something they call the Regional Innovation Scoreboard, where they analyze the research and innovation capacity of about 250 regions in Europe. And currently, our region is on place 14th. This is the top category, and that's why we are an innovation leader. Now, what are some components of the reason for that? So what are the strengths of the Brussels capital region around innovation and technology? This is, first of all, the human capital. Approximately 5% of the people working in Brussels actually work on research and development, and that is a lot above the average in Europe. We have a very strong presence of research centers in Brussels that includes the presence of approximately 7 universities, approximately 20 university colleges. This is linked also at very important university hospitals. So a lot of research is present within the region. Brussels is very good at cooperation, and this is linked to its central position at the heart of Europe. So our universities are very good at international cooperation. Our enterprises are very used to working with other regions. Other countries are very good at exporting their products and services. The enterprises in Brussels are very innovative. We have a very dynamic startup scene, and this is especially the case in the ICT sector, in which we have about 2,000 companies, most of which are also actively engaged in research and development, and with about 30,000 people working in the ICT sector. So it's a very innovative place. Now, talking more concretely about artificial intelligence in Brussels, I would invite you to take a look at this website. I put URL at the top of this slide, artificialintelligence.brussels. This was a study organized by Innoviris and by our colleagues from Hub. And it gives you an overview about all the activities and strengths around artificial intelligence in the region. And there are 13 laboratories doing active research with approximately 600 researchers in the region. So there is not only a strength around ICT more in general, but also specific strength around artificial intelligence in the Brussels capital region. Now, today, I'm mainly going to talk the plan of the public sector, the public funding agencies in Brussels. So I'm here representing Innoviris. And as I mentioned before, we are a funding agency. So our role is to encourage research and innovation in Brussels. And we work closely together with several other agencies in Brussels. We work together with our colleagues of Hub, who are responsible of guiding, helping small and large companies in Brussels. We work together on the right-hand side with our colleagues from Finance and Invest, who have the capability of investing in companies. And we, of course, work together with our many other colleagues from other public agencies in Brussels to really support this ecosystem around research and innovation. So that being said, I would like to present you the Regional Innovation Plan, which is the strategy of Innoviris. This is a plan for a period of 7 years, so it's aligned with the European Horizon Europe plan. And the big goal of the big theme, as Barbara Tacht already mentioned, is that we would like innovation and the research leading to innovation to help us to support this transition of our economy that we need. So we need a social and ecological transition. We need to find new solutions to really solve the societal challenge that we have identified. We have to build an economy that really solves the solutions, that produces the products and services that our citizens need, and that does this within the limits, within the ecological possibilities of our planet. That's the starting point of all of that. So the strategy behind this plan is called the Smart Specialization Strategy. That is a bit of a standard at the European level. And what the strategy does is it looks at the strengths of our region. It also looks at these societal challenges, And at the intersection of those two, we have defined 6 strategic innovation domains that I will present in a moment. And we did all of that in a strong participative approach. So these societal challenges were based, of course, on the Sustainable Development Goals, on the political goals of the Brussels government, but also on the needs seen by our enterprises, by research centers, and we also talked with citizens directly to figure out, well, where are the real challenges that we need to solve through more innovation and new solutions. At the bottom of the slide, you find some links if you want to look at the plan in more detail. So the result of this exercise is shown on this slide. So in these 6 little clouds, you see what was identified as the key societal challenges for Brussels. And for people who live in Brussels or also in other similar urban areas in Europe or in other places in the world, this will not come as a surprise. We need to improve our mobility of goods and services, of goods and people in the city. We need to provide healthy, high-quality food for everybody. We want our society to be more inclusive. Health and well-being is an important topic. Of course, climate and energy, and we have to find ways to use our resources in a more optimal, in a more economic way. So finally, I will show you the result of all of this. So we looked at the strengths of Brussels, right? The strong presence of researchers in our region and the specific strengths around ICT and artificial intelligence. We looked at these 6 needs. And based on that, we have identified 6 strategic innovation domains. You find 5 thematic domains around the green circle. And right in the center, you see advanced digital technologies. I will quickly explain what these 5 thematic domains are. The first one is around climate. We need to prepare our buildings to respond to the climate crisis. This can include, for example, building intelligent buildings that deal with heating and cooling in a smarter way. But it goes beyond individual buildings. It's also about managing energy and heat at the level of the entire city. The second area is urban flows and urban space. This is, of course, linked to the challenge of mobility. Yeah? We have to find better ways to transport goods within the city. We have to find different ways for ourselves to move within the city. But it's also about creating and organizing our city so that we can find everything we need for our daily lives, maybe within walking distance of our homes. The third domain is around the optimal use of resources. This is about finding smarter ways to design new products using fewer resources, but also to produce energy in a better way. But it's also about things like preventive maintenance. How can we make sure that the products we have developed can last, be used for a longer period? So we need intelligent systems. We can maybe use the technology of digital twins to try to improve the lifetime of the products. Or we can even look at completely different sharing mechanisms, where also intelligent sharing mechanisms are important to produce products once and to share them between different users in the city. A fourth thematic area is health. Where we see more or less two aspects. It's about really advanced medicine, where also artificial intelligence can play an important role. How can we diagnose diseases in a better way? How can we use, for example, intelligent precision robotics to do certain kinds of precision surgery? So this is the really health technology, medical technology aspect. But there's also the integrated and personalized care aspect. How can we make it easier for people to access the care that they need? And also their digital technologies can play a very important role. And then finally, the fifth thematic area is what we call social innovation, public innovation, and social inclusion. Social innovation is about how can we solve our big societal problems, for example, the inequality in our region, or access to jobs, access to education in a better way. Public innovation, this is about changing the way the government functions. Can we use artificial intelligence to provide the public services that we provide to our citizens? Or also, how can we provide the engagement of citizens in policies improve the interface between citizens and the public sector. So these are the 5 thematic domains that we have identified as the basis of the strategy of Innoviris. Now, right at the middle there, and this is the important part for today, you see a domain that we call advanced digital technologies that I will talk about in a moment. Now, concretely, to put this strategy into action, Innoviris, or the region, will invest about 400 million euros over the next 7 years. These are regional R&D funds. To that, we will add European funds. For example, FARI, that was already mentioned a couple of times, was funded through the European RFF facility. And beyond funding, Innoviris also has a coordination, a promotion mission. Of course, to that, we have to add other public funds from our colleagues like Finance and Invest in Brussels. Most of our projects require private co-financing, so Innoviris will invest something, but our beneficiaries have to have to match the amount we invest. And of course, we will require a lot of private investment to make the strategy a reality. Now let's look a little bit more closely at artificial intelligence, and I'm showing here again this picture of the idea that we see these advanced digital technologies and artificial intelligence as something that must be at the service of providing new innovative products and solutions to address these 5 societal challenges around the outside of this green circle. And when we talk about advanced digital technologies, it includes artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, but also things related to that: big data, sensors, cloud computing, high performance computing, cybersecurity, all the things we need to make this a reality. And we also feel at Innoviris that in order to make this possible, of course, we have to work on deep technological innovation, but at the same time, we also have to figure out how can we do this in an ethical way? How can we build the trustworthy AI? This is a component that we sometimes call social innovation. How can we figure out together with the public sector, our citizens, the nonprofit sector, how can we use these technologies to solve these real problems that we have identified here? More concretely, what are the key actions? So Innoviris is, and this has already been put in place, is financing projects that are oriented towards these strategic domains, including artificial intelligence and the 5 thematic domains. And we're really looking at funding projects that have this positive potential impact on the economic transition that we are striving for. We are also inspiring young people to pursue a STEM career. We have, and we'll talk about that later on, in the meantime, launched FARI, the AI for the Common Good Institute here in Brussels. It was announced during the AI week last week. In the meantime, it is a reality. And right now, we're already working on new projects. As Barbara Tracht already mentioned, we're working on creating a European Digital Innovation Hub. The goal of this hub is to provide an interface between enterprise and new technologies to make it easier for small enterprises to access these new technologies. And what we're also doing is that we're building something that we call an innovation journey, and there will be an innovation journey specifically for the digital domain that will bundle all the regional programs that the region of Brussels Capital offers. And it's a journey because our goal is to really provide instruments that will support innovative projects from their very beginning incubator stage, their very first ideas, up to a scale-up stage where an investment in growing companies is needed. FARI is, of course, one of our key projects, and I will not repeat this here. You already heard it from Barbara Tracht, and we will get a presentation from some of the leading people in FARI later on. Now, of course, what's important for us is that Brussels is not an island. So it's very important for us to participate. We feel that we are part of this big European strategy around artificial intelligence. We participate in the European calls on this topic. And you also see that our strategy fits in very well with also the European view on artificial intelligence. We participate also in European infrastructure programs, included in that is Euro High Performance Computing, Euro HPC, and LUMI. Of course, we are involved in AI for Belgium. We've recently become a member of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. So linking what happens in our region to what happens in Europe and the rest of the world is very important for us. So far I've explained something about this Brussels Capital Region, very innovative region focused on services with great strengths in artificial intelligence. I mentioned something about the Regional Innovation Plan, what are the strategic domains we're focusing on. And we see artificial intelligence as a very important instrument, a means to do innovation in these areas. And finally, I'd like to show you more concretely what Innovirus has to offer. If you are a research center, if you are a company or a non-profit in our region. In the end, we feel that innovation takes place in an ecosystem. So our goal in our programs is to support not only enterprises, but also research centers, and also the non-profit sector, the public sector, and citizens. And you see big overlapping areas here. Our goal is also to support cooperation between these different kinds of agents, because in many cases, this is where innovation takes really place, when different ideas from different organizations meet. So we'll show you here some of the programs that Innovirus offers. And with programs, I mean funding programs, which mean that companies or research centers can apply to Innovirus to get financial support to put in place their projects. So we have several programs oriented towards research centers, such as universities. And they include, for example, a spin-off program where we encourage and help universities to take their research results and create a spin-off, a startup, a new company based on these results. We have a bunch of programs aimed at enterprises, and I will talk about some of them on the next slides. We also, as I mentioned before, have specific programs that encourage cooperation between enterprises and research organizations. For example, we encourage the development of research platforms in a cooperation between different research centers. We have a program around applied PhDs, where we fund PhDs from universities to work with the public sector or with enterprises. We encourage experimenting in living labs in the cities and co-creating in cooperation between citizens, research centers, and companies. And then finally, as I mentioned before, one other aspect of the work of Innovirus is to explain to the citizens what technology is and why it's important, and to encourage young people to choose a career and education in the STEM area. Now, I just picked for today two more concrete programs to explain to you a little bit more concretely what this might mean for you. And the first program I'd like to mention is the Innovative Starters Award. I think this is one of the flagship programs of Innovirus and quite unique. So every year we select up to 3 innovative startups of the year, and we are able to fund the development of their strategic innovation plan that will typically run over a period of 3 years, and we're able to fund that plan by up to 500,000 euros. This is a significant amount that has made a big change in the companies that we have funded. And I looked at the laureates in recent years, and many of them have actually had an innovation plan in the domain of artificial intelligence. This includes Exilus, Tapio, Rockestate, Citizen Lab, and also Colibra, which is one of the few Belgian unicorns. This was actually a company that won this Innovative Starters Award about approximately 10 years ago, and is now among the most valuable and successful technology companies in Brussels. Now, this year, there's another Innovative Starters Award. You see the deadline there on the slides. It's July 11th, 2022, so we hope to receive a lot of applications for this program. Now, the second program, and this is probably the most important program for most of the companies in Brussels, are the so-called R&D, the research and development projects. So these programs are open all year, so you can submit an application, a request for funding at any point in time. And here on the left, you see a matrix that we like to use to explain our programs called MatMax. At the bottom, you see the technology readiness level of the product technology that the company wants to produce. And on the left, you see the commercial readiness level. And before I talked about an innovation journey, and our goal really is to provide different instruments that will help startups in a region to make this transition from a first initial idea with a very low technology and market readiness level up to really at the top right, a scale-up stage where they can really provide successful products to the world. And the R&D program includes the funding of research programs, but also to experimental development, where we fund a certain percentage of a development cost and also provide a bonus if the company cooperates with, for example, a research institution. Now, to make it easier, because I know young companies are incredibly busy and sometimes they might be afraid of working with a government funding agency and filling out applications, we have put in place an easy interface to Innovirus. This interface is called Test Your Idea, and I've put in here a link to the person who's responsible for that. And the idea is that we want to make it easy for you to explain your idea to us, to Innovirus, and then we'll guide you to the right kind of program that might help you to fund your innovation project. So to summarize, Brussels is a very innovative place. We're an innovation leader, and we have specific strengths around advanced digital technologies such as AI. Many research institutes and researchers are working specifically on that topic. We see digital technologies at the heart of our strategy. In almost all innovation domains, we need digital technologies, but we see AI as a tool that needs to address these societal challenges. Hence, ethical AI is a very important topic for us. FARI, the AI for the Common Good Institute Brussels, has now been launched. And we are continuing. We are now harmonizing the support for companies in the region who want to work around AI in an innovation journey that make it easier to understand what we have to offer. And we're working on the installation of a digital innovation hub to ease the access of small companies. And Innovirus is here to help you to finance or co-finance your projects. And I would invite you, if you're interested, to try this Test Your Idea services, a service that makes it easier for you to access and to work with Innovirus. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and I will head back to Jonathan.
Great, thank you, Stefan. I hope that you're all convinced that Brussels is a great place for doing R&D in AI and beyond AI, of course. I'm going to share my screen and go back to the agenda, which is here. So now we go straight into the startup session. So we have a series of 3 actually startups or companies that Innovirus have been actually supporting along the years. That will actually demonstrate what is happening in AI in Brussels for 3 pillars: environment, mobility, and inclusion. We're going to start now with presentation from the second Stefan of the day. So Stefan Jans is the CTO of DeltaQ. He has actually more than 30 years of experience in ICT. Among others, he was CIO of Kinepolis or DPG Media. Now he's CTO and Chief Product Officer of DeltaQ. Thanks already, Stefan, to show us what you do for the environment through DeltaQ.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, let me share my screen. And that should be feasible.
Yes,
yes.
All good.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about DeltaQ and how we leverage AI for mitigating climate change. We are a happy beneficiary of funding by Innovirus for our R&D. And so where Stefan just referred to. As a company, we are very mission and vision driven. We really want to have a positive impact on the planet, and we do that by helping companies reduce their carbon footprint. And we do that by intelligently, smartly steering their HVAC systems in their buildings. And I will explain you how we do that. First of all, Delta Q, as a company, we are, depending on the definition, we're a scale-up startup. Under our own name, we exist for 2.5 years, but we have inherited knowledge and experience from 3E, of which we are a spin-off, and who has over 25 years of experience in engineering of sustainable energy solutions. We have been the recipients of a number of awards and are recognized among the top 3 PropTech innovators in Europe, but we are most pleased by, of course, the trust that our customers put in us, and that allows us to really take that CO2 or prevent that CO2 from being emitted in the atmosphere. We do that in 8 countries on two continents. And we are still very much focused on research and continuously developing our solution. As 30% of our staff, we are about 30 people now, are really focused on the modeling of buildings and on product engineering. The real estate market is an interesting target because they are in a perfect storm today. Real estate accounts for 38% of global CO2 emissions. That's 10% in construction and 28% in operations. So that's continuously emitting CO2. But they are way off track in reducing those CO2 emissions. And under the current and still increasing pressure from legislation, it is really urgent for the sector to find solutions. They are a bit constrained by the history of, well, the primary focus of providing buildings is to provide comfort, and reducing energy expenditure and comfort are typically a trade-off that you have to make. And secondly, even in real estate, capex is limited, and all existing solutions are very capex intensive and have a very long return on investment and very long payback period. So it is a sector that really craves for the kind of solutions that AI can give. When we zoom in what we can do, in fact, when you talk about HVAC in buildings, there are 3 crucial phases where you can intervene. There's a construction phase where you determine the building envelope, where you determine the situation of the building. Building envelope means what materials are used, what level of insulation is used, what are the volumes of the building. Secondly, at that time, you also design the HVAC, all heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment in the building, and you in fact determine the capacity of those systems. You might also include some energy systems that will create or generate energy. That's a second phase. We are focusing on the steering phase, which is where you determine how efficiently you can utilize the HVAC equipment for bringing comfort in that building envelope. The advantage of intervening there are that we have found a way to improve the steering with no or very limited capex. So portfolio owners can reserve their capex and target it to other interventions in the buildings. It also has an extremely rapid payback, which takes away headaches that you have a lot in the sector about who will pay for what. The solution pays for itself, and so takes away the pain of charging that to the tenants. It is also, contrary to other solutions, it is non-intrusive. There is no need to break walls. There is no need to interrupt the occupation of the building in order to do refurbishment or retrofitting of materials in there. And it remains compatible with other interventions. Of course, there will always be a need to improve the building itself, improve the HVAC equipment in itself, but there's a major impact to be done on the level of steering. We do that basically through what we call an optimization platform. Is we connect with the building, with their building management system. We install a Delta-Q gateway that will be interfaced with the BMS, and we upload monitoring data from the building, from their existing sensors, to our cloud solution, where our predictive optimization engine runs. In order to be predictive, it integrates weather forecast data about the temperature, about solar irradiance, and this optimized steering is then sent back to the building in order to operate the HVAC actively. Next to the weather forecast and the monitoring, we can also get some monitoring from specific IoT platforms. And of course, we also integrate the consumption of the building, reading out a metering of the energy that is expended in the building. Now, zooming in on what we can do with prediction, with a predictive model in a building. Let's illustrate that with some situations. A first situation is that in every building, you need to precondition the building for achieving the comfort temperature at the start of the workday. In the sector, that's called preconditioning. That's making sure that you start heating or start cooling in time so that the building arrives at the right level of comfort by the start of the day. Typically, in classical steering of buildings, that will be done through a fixed preconditioning time. But of course, depending whether it freezes at night or it is 10 or 15 degrees, this fixed preconditioning will yield to the fact that will bring us to the fact that the building will either be at the right temperature too soon or too late. Too soon means that there is a potential for saving energy, and too late means that the comfort is impacted. So taking into account the weather conditions in order to determine the preconditioning time is an opportunity for improving the energy efficiency of the building. A second pattern is to let the sun do its work. When even in the winter season, when the sun breaks through the clouds, you will have solar irradiance. You see it at the bottom of the screen. You will have solar irradiance that will warm up the building. If you continue heating while that happens, it means that your building will overheat, or that there will be too much. Well, the temperature in the building will be too high, and a typical system will react to that by turning off the heat right at that moment, and then maybe even cooling down the building in order to prevent overheating. With a predictive model, you can make sure you can anticipate the effect of the solar irradiance. And then, as you see in the square in the middle, we will stop heating in anticipation of the sun taking over, and that will result in a temperature curve. You see the blue curve on top, which is right on top of the orange comfort temperature, the comfort bound that is required for the building. And so you let the sun do part of the work, and you avoid having to cool down a building that is only heated up by the sun. In order to do this kind of solutions, we need to have a model of a number of things in the building and surrounding the building. We need to build a model that will account for a number of building characteristics, like the floors and the layouts, like the orientation, the materials used, the insulation, trying to model the thermal inertia of the building, how heat propagates through the building from the HVAC in the space, how heat is leaked through the windows, through the walls. We need to account also for how the HVAC was designed, but also for the degradation of the equipment and possible upgrades of the equipment. On the other hand, the model needs to take into account a number of external factors, like the solar irradiance, like the ambient temperature surrounding the building, like the wind and its effect on the building, and account for the occupants with occupancy profiles, how the building is being used, and the comfort needs of the occupants. We do that in 3 steps. Firstly, we connect the building, we connect the control systems of the building, and we gather and analyze the data available. All the data I just referred to in the previous slide. So this is we add, in fact, very practically, we add the Delta Q gateway to the building, and it starts reading out what happens in the building. Then there's a modeling phase, which is a crucial phase where a thermal model of the building is being built, and that results in a digital twin that will be able to simulate how the building, or predict how the building will react to outside factors and to our control. With our technology, we can build that digital twin in weeks, meaning that very little data about the building is required in order to have a model that will allow to do predictive steering of the building. And then the third step, the operational step, is where we do the predictive control, taking all the actual and real-time weather forecast, the real-time monitoring of the building, and then apply real-time predictive control to that building. We do that to be a bit more technical on the AI part. We do this through gray box models of the building. When you look at various techniques available for modeling the thermal behavior of a building, you can go from what we call a completely white box approach, where you do a detailed modeling of all equipment, of all materials, of the full topology of the building, which is very labor intensive and still error prone because it requires a lot of detail that is often not achievable. That's one extreme. The other extreme is a black box approach, where you only use machine learning and only use statistical models that have to be inferred from a lot of data about a building, which typically will require data from all seasons of the building in order to kind of determine the thermal model of the building. What we do is a combination of both, where we model just enough of the physical characteristics of the building in order to understand how generally heat is being delivered to the building and dissipated throughout the building, and how it reacts to outside conditions. And we combine that with statistics, meaning that we will use a couple of weeks of data from the building to train our gray box model and to determine the parameters of that model so that it will be fitted for that specific building. This has the advantage of having a physical interpretation, which means that the model will be induced with the laws of thermodynamics and understand how a building behaves. But it can also be automated as opposed to a white box, and it requires also less computational resources than a black box, and will allow for a shorter training period, which means that it is more rapidly implementable. The approach has a number of tangible benefits. In the portfolio that we steer, we measure 20% savings on CO2 emissions on average. The results are very rapid with a limited capex. As we said, there is no capex required unless some sensors need to be added to the building, but most of the time we can work with the existing sensors in the building, which allows us for a payback of a few months, as no capex needs to be repaid. The comfort is optimized. So as I said, we solve the trade-off between comfort and energy savings by making sure that we keep the comfort in the building and we optimize the energy expenditure. And there is also a number of secondary benefits like time savings for operators, as we are in fact kind of a smart operator through AI. We also unify and centralize data, and we prepare the building for grid interaction, on which a bit more in a few minutes. Like I said, we have a number of customers that entrust us with the steering of their buildings. These are a few examples of them. I said we are a beneficiary of Innoviris funding. So it means we have some plans and an R&D agenda for the coming months. You recognize our basic pipeline, and we intend to expand the use cases with a number of use cases towards occupants for getting their feedback and getting more fine-grained information about their presence. We have plans towards managers of energy performance contracts, of fault detection and diagnosis towards facility managers. We often see that we can tell a lot about how well the HVAC functions in a building. Reporting solutions are part of the roadmap. And then most importantly, grid interaction is something we feel we are in a good position to support. As the amount of renewable energy will increase and it is intermittent by nature, there will be a lot of demand for what we call demand response and shifting the demand from the building according to what the grid can offer at each time and help grid balancing. And that's a major topic where we can help with our expertise of balancing comfort and energy. And finally, we feel like we have an impact equation where we can continuously increase the amount of CO2 saved. If you see CO2 savings at the right-hand side, we can improve that by adding additional building types. We are continuously adding other types beyond office buildings, retail buildings, and so on, that will allow us to help more buildings save CO2. We are currently focused on HVAC, but we can add building systems like lighting and also everything related to air quality. And we will also never stop investing in improving our algorithms so that we can improve the yield of it. When we will, if we have a portfolio of, let's say, 1,000 buildings, then improving the yield of our algorithm with 1% will be the equivalent of adding 10 buildings to our portfolio. But of course, we will still continue adding buildings and adding territories. And by doing this, we feel like we have a virtuous circle, a virtuous cycle for saving ever more CO2. And that's where I would like to conclude, and thank you for your time.
Great, thanks a lot, Stefan. I think that's a pretty interesting work that you have presented today. And yeah, that's a good example, I believe, of a company that is, thanks to AI, helping fight climate change, one of the major issues we are facing today. Another key issue we are facing, especially in Brussels, is mobility. And I'm glad to introduce you to our next speaker, Bruno Cornelis, who's got a PhD in 2014, is also guest professor still at VUB. Now he's working for Mac Smart Mobility, where he's leading the data science team. And Bruno is gonna explain us how Mac is helping mobility thanks to AI. Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to present today. Let me share my screen. That should be visible by now. Can anyone confirm?
We can see it.
Thank you very much. So yeah, the idea of the presentation of Mac Mobility today is to explain a little bit what we do in terms of AI and where AI is important into our products. So who are we first? Well, Mac is a Brussels-based family-owned SME. We employ about 130 to 140 employees. We have a very strong and established customer base in Belgium with a small office in France, and we're currently working to strengthening our partner network worldwide. So we have projects also in Asia, in Africa, and in other places of Europe. So we'll also have the pleasure of celebrating our 100th anniversary next year. While in the past we were mainly focused on the domain of automation, in the last few years we have clearly shifted our activities towards traffic, and more specifically towards smart and sustainable mobility, where we have two main products, I would say. So on the one hand, we have our smart traffic cameras, of which you see the latest generation here on the top right slide, top right of the slide. So traditionally we were doing ANPR cameras, meaning automatic number plate recognition cameras, but we're going much further than that today. These cameras are really becoming smart cameras. I have to say that these are edge devices, meaning that most of the, or all the heavy processing actually happens on the camera itself. They are equipped with state-of-the-art NVIDIA GPUs, embedded GPUs, which allow us to deploy AI and convolutional neural networks. The other main project or product that we have is called a Mac Mobility Manager, or MCube in short. This is a big data backend solution, basically, that is meant to ingest, harvest data from various roadside sensors, such as our cameras, cameras of competitors, counting loops, and many more. So we do aggregation, we do processing of this information, and we do smart visualizations for our customers. More precisely, the whole Mac ecosystem is represented on this slide. So as already mentioned, we have our smart cameras, of which the QCam 5 is actually the one that is being sold today. The two others I will introduce, to the QCam 3 and the QCam 7, I will present later on. We have also a bunch of dedicated systems that are supported on these cameras. For example, we have a carpooling solution, which is meant to count the number of passengers inside a vehicle. We deploy our cameras on railroad crossings, and we're quite famous for our cameras on trajectory control, so mainly for speed enforcement. Since a few years, we also have an air quality sensor, which is called QSense Air. And our main application domain traditionally is law enforcement or police, but we're clearly shifting towards more mobility-related applications by deploying our cameras on cities, roads, highways. School zones are very important to us. We're also active for environmental applications. For example, the low emission zone of Brussels is monitored with Mac cameras. The AI we do in our company is basically centered around two tiers. So the first one is, as already mentioned, our smart cameras. So these are basically computer vision algorithms. And the second tier is centered around traffic analytics, which is an activity mainly held by our data science team. So let's start with the computer vision. So right now we are selling the QCam 5. We're actively selling that one. It is being deployed for many applications. It's currently being homologated for trajectory controls. It's being used in the low emission zones, also deployed for carpooling. In a few months, we will be deploying, let's say, a more lightweight version of the Cam 5, which we call the QCam 3. This is a solely ANPR camera, so meaning that it's only going to be able to detect license plates, and so its application lies mainly in travel time estimation, counting applications, access control to parking lots, or origin destination studies over larger regions. Later this year, we should be releasing the QCam 7, which is the heavy workhorse of the family. So that one is equipped with high resolution sensors. It will also be equipped with a heavier GPU. And so the camera is really meant for heavier applications, such as automatic incident detection, deployment at railway crossings, intersection monitoring, of which I will show a small video later in the presentation. And will also be equipped with an embedded radar system, meaning it will be able to be used for spot speed applications. What you see on this slide here is a screenshot of the interface of our camera, of the QCam 5. So the screenshot here is that of what we call a winner image or a keyframe image. This is the image that the camera has selected as being the best one of a passing vehicle. And when we speak of ANPR or automatic number plate recognition, well, we don't only mean number plate recognition, it goes much further than that. So here I had to anonymize the license plate, but we also detect the country of origin of the vehicle, what type of vehicle we're talking about, its make, its model. We have a color estimator. We also estimate the speed of the vehicle based only on the content of the image, whether the vehicle is approaching or leaving the camera. And if it's properly configured, we can also say in which lane the vehicle is situated. How do we do that? Well, we do it based on video. And so this is how a typical video processing pipeline looks in our cameras. So we have our video acquisition system, which is mainly our sensors, right? And then on every frame of the video, we basically deploy a license plate detection algorithm. For every license plate, we do character recognition and we try to recognize which nationality the vehicle is from. Then we have the keyframe extraction module or the winner image that I was mentioned earlier, on which we then deploy a make and model module and a color estimation module. So all the components where you see a small AI icon are basically deep learning based algorithms. In parallel of that, we also do object detection, which is a real-time object detector. That is for applications where, for example, we don't need to recognize license plates, or for road users that do not have a license plate, like pedestrians, all type of vulnerable road users, cyclists, and so on. So all these models extract information from the video as input, aggregate it into metadata, which is sent alongside the winner image or the keyframe over a network to our backend service. Here are two videos, I hope they will work, of two applications for which we deploy a camera for. So what you see here, this green bounding box is basically the result of the object detection algorithm. So it identifies the location of a vehicle in the field of view of the camera. And so as soon as one of these bounding boxes crosses a white line, which you see a horizontal white line, which you see here, basically a counter is incremented by 1. So this is really vehicle counting, multimodal vehicle counting, because we're able to distinguish between regular passenger vehicles, trucks, motorcycles. So let me click on play. Let's hope it works. Yes, here it is. So as soon as one of these bounding boxes crosses this white line, we don't track and we don't detect the vehicle anymore. We do the same thing on intersections, where the application is a little bit more complex. The idea is here to really monitor intersections and give them an optimization score. So seeing how optimal this intersection functions. We measure things such as travel time, waiting time, where do vehicles come from, where do they go? And the same as in the video to the left, every time we see a vehicle crossing one of these counting lines, we increment the counter by 1. Another interesting application consists of using the CAM5 in a distributed processing system. The application here is to monitor vulnerable road users and warn or send accurate messages to an intelligent traffic controller about their presence on a road. So here we have 4 CAM5s working together. Each of these are basically calibrated, which means that every pixel on the road that they look at is being mapped to a GPS coordinate. So by detecting these vulnerable road users, we're able to accurately provide their speed, their direction, their position. And with position, I mean so the GPS coordinates of the object. So the first camera is basically the master camera. It gets information from the 3 other cameras. It aggregates this information and sends this to an intelligent traffic controller where it basically informs the intelligent traffic controller of incoming vulnerable road users. This application is privacy sensitive. Normally in regular operation, we don't send any image over the network. We just send basically meta information or metadata, meaning the position, speed of the vulnerable road users. For testing purposes, obviously to estimate the quality of our algorithms. We do extract some visual information, but we make sure that we anonymize or we blur the passengers. This is the last application of which I will show a video, which is basically the deployment of our cameras on railroad crossings. So there, the goal is really to provide warnings or detect events. So you will see that we detect vehicles passing the railroad crossing. The idea is to emit a warning whenever, for example, a vehicle stays too long on the railroad crossing, or when it crosses the crossing here when the barriers are closing. Here, we do not only detect road users such as car, trucks, motorbikes, bicycles, and so on. But we also, you see here, we have a bounding box around each of the barriers. So we also do barrier detection and tracking. So whenever a vehicle crosses the intersection, we measure its speed. And the takeaway message here in this, for all these applications, is basically that we need to be able to work 24/7 in all possible circumstances. So this is the same railroad crossing at night, and where you see, for example, that we have to deal with quite some challenges. Here you see a big spider, which is not that big in reality, but it's a spider that is basically creating its web in front of the camera. And also interesting is to see that these barriers, which look striped during the day, look very different at night. And this is due to our illuminator. The camera is equipped with an infrared illuminator, which shines onto the scene. And you see that these barriers look very differently at night. This is, in short, what we do in terms of computer vision. Now, the second main tier I would like to present or talk about is about traffic analytics, which is an activity mainly done by our data science team. And what's the context here? So we're working on algorithms for our Mac Mobility Managers, our MCube system. And there we subdivided, in terms of mobility, we subdivided our activities in 3 modules. The first one is actually badly named. It's called the counting module, but it's a statistics module. It provides various information about your traffic scene. We have a real-time traffic interpolation module, and then we do traffic prediction. So we're trying to predict a number of hours from now what is going to be the traffic scene. How do we do that? Well, we use various types of information. Of course, we use information coming from our smart traffic cameras. We also use information coming from inductive counting loops, floating car data. We enrich this information by using other types of data, such as weather information. Obviously, traffic is influenced by the weather. We all know that. Calendar days, whether there have been some traffic incidents, or whether there's some roadworks planned, and so on. And the goal of all these modules is actually the same. It's to provide traffic information, traffic statistics that can then be used by our customers in the maintenance or in the maintenance of their roads. I picked one application, which is the application of traffic interpolation, which is something that the data science team has actually worked quite a long time on. So what is it? So you see here, the road network that is highlighted by a color is the road's network of interest from a customer. The little circles on the road network correspond to sensors, so fixed sensors. These can be traffic cameras, these can be counting loops. And what they do, the goal here is to measure or to count the number of vehicles on each traffic segment of the network. Every little triangle is an area for which we will do an estimation of the traffic count and the traffic speed, but where we do not have any sensor. So the goal is really to give an estimation of the traffic situations on areas of the road network where we do not have anything to measure it. So basically, to give an estimate of traffic metrics on the little triangles based on information coming from the little circles. What's the goal here? The goal is, or the application, well, it's literally filling up information of your traffic network, right? So we provide a global view of past and current traffic situation, which can then be used to identify congestions in your road network and so on. We do this in real time, but we can also do this on historic traffic information, giving the means to our customers to study the evolution of their traffic scene and of their mobility situation. So this allows for material to do in-depth studies of your road network and hopefully provide better insights of what is happening. And this, in the end, to facilitate decision-making. The graphs you see here on the right are counting graphs. So this is basically traffic counts, or it's meant to represent traffic counts throughout the day on a part of the network. And here is an example of an output of a traffic interpolation or prediction algorithm. So here we look at the south of Belgium, where you see the ring of Brussels here. And every circle, every transparent circle you see with a little black border is basically a count. In this case, a count coming from a roadside sensor. So this could be a counting loop. This can be a camera, and every little filled colored ball, smaller ball, is basically an area for which we estimate a traffic count. The gray circles are basically, or are an estimation of how certain we are of our measurement or of our estimation. And this plot is a plot for which, on which our data scientists look at quite often. So this is basically a plot that we use to estimate the quality of our interpolation of our prediction. It's basically also for 1 week time the traffic counts on a specific location or a specific segment of your road network. The blue curve is what the sensor actually gave throughout the week. You see these 2 days here that produce lower counts are basically weekend days. So this is Saturday, this is Sunday. And what we did is we removed one sensor while training, or this sensor while training our neural networks. And what we did is we estimated how good our traffic interpolation is at recreating these traffic counts for that location. So obviously, the closer the other colored curves to this blue curve, the better. And so the current algorithm we use now in production is basically the orange curve you see here. And what is very interesting to see is that not only the algorithm is capable of retracing or reproducing the traffic counts quite accurately based on information from neighboring sensors or also from its history. So we also provide historical data from every sensor. But you also see here that during 4 days of that week, of that particular week, the sensor has not worked properly. So it produced a count that is close to 0 throughout 4 days of the week. And yet the algorithm is able to reconstruct traffic counts for that location. And so what you see at the bottom of the slide is basically a comparison of how good every method has done with respect to the ground truth, so with respect to the actual count that the sensor has measured. So what is the takeaway message of my presentation? Well, I think I have shown that innovation is really part of the R&D of MAC as a company. We do this through internal R&D activities. We also have a whole range of research projects funded by the Brussels region, but also on European level. And that artificial intelligence is central to many of our products, namely computer vision applications for our smart camera. And then for the MAC Mobility Manager, everything that relates to traffic interpolation, optimization, and prediction. And with this, I thank you for your attention. And I give the word back to Jonathan.
Thank you, Bruno. Great presentation. I hope you also like it like I did. Feel free to contact Bruno if you have more questions after the talk. Let's move ahead. And I would like to give the floor to our next speaker. I'm going to show you one slide. Up. Here we go. So AI and inclusion, how AI can help you with inclusion. So I'm pleased to welcome Leila Medan. So Leila is young, but she's already actually 2 ventures built. She was also active as CEO in Molengeek, as you all know. And now she's here as founder and CEO of Techity. So Leila, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll share my screen. Okay, it should work. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for the invitation again, Jonathan. I'm very happy to be there to talk to you about Techity and what exactly that we do. In a nutshell, Techity is about bringing technology at the service of equity. So I'd like to start this presentation by just putting a challenge out there. The challenge is that in an age of diversity, the addiction of likeness means homogeneity, and that will bring different challenges to companies, but to society as a whole. Because when we are actually aiming for homogeneity, we are going through unstable times, and we're risking to face instability and sustainability, in the way we manage people, in the way we manage our company and our initiative in general. So when we look at other ecosystems, for instance, when you look at other systems such as the natural ecosystem, well, we can see that biodiversity actually increases productivity and resilience. So there is benefits and diversity. When we look at the importance in an ecosystem of this diversity, we can see that each species has a very important role to play in that ecosystem. And if one of these species was not there anymore for some reason, then it can actually bring everything down. Look at what's happening with the bees as of now. We can see that with this challenge of bees being almost extinct, we are facing a challenge that it will actually impact the overall balance in our world, that will actually impact humans as well. If we take another type of systems and we look at the diversity benefits, that we can see that in the financial systems, actually, by diversifying portfolios, we can mitigate better the risk, and we can also increase resilience. So what is the importance of diversity? It avoids system contagion, it avoids economic crisis, and it maintains growth and good standard of living. So if we take this example and we apply it to the actual people system, then we could say that, oh, wait, just want to make sure that you guys see everything. We should see, sorry, my English is quite bad today, I'm a bit tired. In the people system, we should see that actually the diversity benefits will means mitigating groupthink. It will mean correlated, it will be correlated with higher financial performances as well. So what is the importance of diversity in people system? It can actually improve decision-making. It can help with market and social relevance, and it can mitigate the social exclusions. So what we can see from here, as I would say just a first factual statement, is that diversity builds resilient structures. However, when we look at the current situation in organization, well, the diversity is not well represented still today. So how come? What would be the reason? Well, as human beings, a first statement could be that we dislike change. It's uncomfortable. We like what we know. We are comfortable in what we know. So for us to actually go outside of the box, outside of a comfort zone, requires effort. We make emotionally based decisions. So in that sense, the factual approach, the objectivity of what we can bring to decision is actually left behind, and we will tend to also, for instance, have biases that will make us, more attracted to somebody who looks like us rather than somebody who's completely different. So it brings me to this point that we prefer people similar to ourselves. It's linked to the point made right before that. And as a fourth statement, we have our own idea of what a talent should be. My definition of what talent is probably different than your definition of talent. So as a consequence, we have different numbers, we have different statistics that are still happening today and are show us that we are facing a major challenge in the labor market. The biggest challenge actually here when it comes to Belgium, it's numbers from Agoria. Agoria released a presentation not too long ago called Be the Change. They actually made a new version. They have updated the new version of the existing version. And they're saying that on average, by 2030, more than 584,000 vacancies will not be filled in Belgium due to insufficient competencies and a structural shortage of talents. So that is a big risk, and that is a big loss as well for companies, because what we want as companies, we want to keep on growing, we want to keep on innovating. So we need people for that. We need the right people with the right skills to make sure that we can keep increasing our market shares, that we can still continue to innovate. On the other hand, when we look at other type of statistics and reports that was made through Belgium, we can still see that overall applicants with foreign sounding names are 30% less likely to be invited to a job interview. That means that there are talents that are there, but they are not being used. So the full talent pool as of today is actually not tapped completely. What we also see and what we also know is that more than a third of the core skills for most jobs will soon be skills that are not yet considered crucial. So we don't even know these skills yet. So it means that 2/3 of the skills are today known, but a third of that are not yet either renowned or really considered as being one of the top skills that should be learned by our employees or by us if we are freelancers as well, if we want to keep on booking new projects. Then we also have some statistics from Actiris that says that by 2020, and this statistics was made out of 4 months because of COVID. It doesn't reflect the entire 2020 year, but only 4 months of that year. 250 notification was made for hiring discrimination. So it is something that keeps on coming back every year. Actiris still receive notification from people who are being discriminated on the market. And last but not least, we need to highlight also the need for the situation around people's experience that has drastically changed throughout the years. And as of now, 37% of the 18 to 24 years old have already worked in 2 other industries. If I actually look at my CV, and Jonathan has asked me to send my CV, I had like a number of different job titles, and I'm only 30 years old. So I just can't imagine like a young student who just leaving a school who wants to actually just be attached to one job title for the rest of his or her life. So it's already something that is happening today. Talents are looking for expertise. They're looking for skills. They're not looking for a specific job titles. So it's important to highlight also the increase of the transversal skills and how they actually apply in the market. So who are we as Techity? Well, we are a nonprofit organization with the objective to make the job market more accessible and inclusive for everyone through technology. So our objectives here and our mission is to leverage AI to help talents, companies, and education better navigate the job market and be true allies for equality at work. So what we decided to look at is, instead of looking at what differentiate us, such as identity, we decided to look at what brings us together, when we look at recruitment, when you look at career development, when you look at all these subjects around talent management, what is the common element? It is skills. So what if we actually look at the challenge of workplace equality from the eyes of skills? And this is what we decided to focus on. And we are using AI to make sure that we can actually solve this business challenge. That is, first of all, making sure that we increase the accuracy of our understanding of the skills required behind each occupation. Because as of today, we all have our own definition of, for instance, a data scientist, a data analyst. If you go to LinkedIn jobs right now and you type data analyst, I'm sure that you're gonna find like 20 jobs, 20 vacancies, and they're all gonna have like different requirements. So how do we want to help talent understanding the skill that they need to develop if we don't really speak the same language, first of all? So that's what we have decided to take on as a challenge. Our challenge actually is to verify the feasibility of eliminating bias in talent management practices by bringing more objective data around candidates' profile using an innovative skill repository and skill mapping tool that I'm going to actually showcase a bit later. So our objective here is to have a more comprehensive skills landscape so that company will be able to rationalize the data that they have from the various systems and make more objective and fair decision when it comes to talent assessment and talent development. So the core aspect of our innovative skill repository is that it's actually based on abilities. So we have completely switched from the approach that is used by a repository as we know, like ESCO or ROM v3, for instance. We have competence used by the DAB here that is based on ROM v3, and we decided to incorporate new concepts, because when it comes to skills, it's quite difficult to really understand the various concepts around skills. You have knowledge, you have technical skills, you have human skills, you have the concept of abilities as well. So how do we increase the accuracy of these concepts? How do we link these concepts together? Because one of my observation, and I think it's all of our observation, is how do you want to actually make the right decision when it comes to choosing the perfect expertise for your job, when on the CV, on the resume, the document that you're using for your skill assessment, it's only mentioned how many years of experience you have in a job. It's very difficult because, for instance, if I take my example, I can have 4 years of experience in Excel, while my colleague can have 2 years, but she or he might be more skillful than I am with 2 years of experience. So how do I make sure that I really, as a company, understand the ability of each person and apply it to the responsibilities that I'm expected in the job? So if you look at here, the small graph that we have on the left, the idea is to actually show that instead of just selecting how many years of experience you have with Python, you can actually tell me more about what you can do with Python and explain the task that you can actually realize that you can perform on a daily basis. So if you can, for instance, produce and track key performance indicators, if you can create data models, it will allow me to have a better visibility on what you can or cannot do. So by bringing a more innovative skill repository, our idea was to target employment discrimination at a more systemic level, because we want to eliminate bias from every decision that can be made from HR department mainly. So we deeply believe that by putting skills at the core of every HR-related decisions, we will be able to reduce inequalities in the labor market and create more diverse and inclusive workplaces. So when we decided to apply for the Innovative Feasibility Study call for tender, the idea here was to showcase a few benefits that we have pinpointed by having this skill repository. Well, first of all, this library of skill will also monitors the growing demand of skills in a fast changing labor market. So it will optimize the accessibility as well of this labor market, and with empower talent, it will empower companies and also learning providers with a lot of data and a lot of research. So it's not only about making sure that we speak the same language, making sure that we have a common understanding of what we call a data scientist, what we call a project manager, what we call a UX designer, but we also need to keep on monitoring this on a daily basis. It needs to be a continuous collection of data to ensure that we continuously reflect on the current job market and that we are not obsolete after a few months, because that is the challenge we're facing with the evolution of technology that has been impacting the jobs at a super high speed. We need to make sure that we still are able to have almost, I would say, a real-time view on the evolution of the skills required behind each occupation. So by having this innovative skill repository and by bringing the ability at the center of the understanding of a job requirement, we are able to also objectify the candidate's profile because we will better understand the expertise. We will also promote a skill-based labor market. So what I just mentioned before, with the 37% of people actually having tried multiple industries before they reach a certain age, this is typically something that will be able to solve this. So for instance, if I'm a talent and I want to apply for a job, then through a comprehensive skill assessment, I will be able to understand my skills and how each of these skills actually apply on the job market. So instead of just focusing on one job, specifically on one occupation, I will be able to have some kind of matrix where I could see, okay, this skills actually is close to that job. But if I want to go to that job, I already have, for instance, 40% or 50% of skills that I already have. I just need another 50% to compensate and to close the gap on my skill set. So I could actually have some suggestions of jobs that could be, for instance, a UX designer. Another job can be a project manager, another one can be data analyst, for instance, but it doesn't matter because I have the right skills that is being required by the company. I do not focus on the job title, I focus on the skills, and I highlight this transversality of skills in the suggestions that we made to talents, but also in the suggestions we made to companies when it comes to assessing profiles. The idea of this innovative skills repository is that it's supported by NLP and neural network. I'm going to go through it a bit later to show you a bit about our process to collect, extract, and cluster the skills. But we create an API-first solutions because it was important for us to make sure that every single actor, when we talk about accessibility, had an easy access and could definitely take advantage of this normalized skills data. So that is really the core of what Techity does. It's really around bringing this better accuracy, this better relevance of skills, while as of today, we are having a lot of different repositories, a lot of different understanding of how each occupation should be described. And that leads to a lot of inconsistencies for companies when they actually release a new vacancy. They do not often attract the right expertise because we can have a lot of inconsistencies between what they actually are looking for as a skill and the job title that they put ahead. Hence, as a talent, if I just look at the job title, I might think that this job is for me. But if I actually look at the description of the responsibilities and the task, it do not always match with my expertise, despite the right job title that match with also my experience. So, wrong slide. Okay, so if I need to go a bit further down in the technology itself, I'm gonna go through the various processes that qualifies or that is behind our technology and what we do to build this skill repository. So the first step is that we actually collect data and we scrap data from the web. We have various data sources. We use job ads and we use resumes to make sure that we really have the best and the most complete view of every single skills that are being out there. So the idea is really to collect this text document and then start to pre-process it to then apply some NLP. And at the end of this NLP process, our objective is to be able to label our data. So the extraction process is one of our key process for us, because if we want to actually have this complete view and detailed view of what an occupation is made of. What an occupation means, we need to have a clear description of what is an ability, what is the technical skills, what is the human skills that is actually made, that is found behind every occupation. So the extraction phase that you can see here will lead us to having all the job ad title. We will extract the job ad title, we will extract the abilities, extract the technical skills, and extract the human skills. So at the end, what we will be fed for our model in that big database will be the job title with a list of all of these items with abilities at the core and all the different concepts that will plug themselves around it. So as you've seen in the previous slides, if I go back here, the idea is really to have the ability at the core, which is, for instance, create a data model. And we know that to create a data model, you can use various technical skills, various technologies, and you will need a human skill to be able to perform it well. If I take another example, as a data analyst, I need to create some dashboard, analytical dashboard. Well, that's one of our ability, create a dashboard, but I can create a dashboard with Power BI. I can create a dashboard with Tableau. I can create a dashboard with Google Data Studio. So I have different technical skills that I can actually learn to be able to perform the task. And I also need to have some good storytelling skills, some good creative skills. Because if my dashboard is not that well structured, well, my business clients will never be able to understand anything at that board, hence they will not use it. So I need to ensure that I have a great visual competence or great visual skills to make sure that the business will be attracted to my dashboard and will read it. So that's why abilities for us is at the core, and then we'll come and plug the various concepts around it. Once we have extracted and labeled our data, then the next step for us is to clusterize this data. Because, for instance, if we take a few examples around human skills, I can express somebody who's punctual the same way that I can express it that this person is right on time. So I can have various ways of expressing the same skill. So in order for us to remove every duplicates, we first need to clusterize the various skill set and find common grounds and values to compare jobs and detect patterns. Because if we have different terms, it's all of our job description, it will be difficult for us to actually compare jobs with one another. So the second phase for us is really to ensure that we cluster all of our skills and then we assign the same values to terms that are similar. Oops, here we go. Once we have clusterized the various skills, our next step is to normalize the occupation by looking at the level of similarity between attributes. So again, we are moving away from a discipline-based job market and we're bringing the skills-based job market. So the idea for us is not to start from job titles, is to start from skills and starting to normalize the job title based on the skill requirements. So we should be able to deduct an occupation based on the various skills requirements. So instead of having, for instance, 20, 30, 40 different job titles to express the same occupation, we can start normalizing these occupations and reduce the inconsistencies that we can find as of now in the various job ads that are being out there. As a positive consequence, it will also increase the matching between the applicants and the vacancies and reduce the cost for companies. So that's really the core of our technology and the basics of what we do with Techity. But this skill repository is not it. It's just the beginning of various business applications that we have defined to make sure that we can tackle this inclusive aspects that we mentioned, because obviously, as when we started, we talked about inclusion. Now you don't really see how this inclusion is being added here, but I'm gonna.
Sorry, Leila. Sorry, we are running a bit late, so you can.
Yeah,
go.
I know, but I only had 10 minutes, so I will try to speed up.
If you can finish within a couple of minutes, it'd be good.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try.
Thanks.
Okay, so regarding the inclusive aspect, we told you that we are processing job ads, we are processing CVs. So when you process CVs, you're using personal data. And as we know, one of the various sources for bias, one of them is actually the training data sets that you use. So it was important for us to also bring the ethical aspect of AI and also create an unfairness matrix that will actually test the objectivity, test the equity of our model, because technology at the service of equity, this is where we bring it. So we analyze the different sources of data. And as you can see on the right side, the idea for us is to check, well, do we represent everybody? Do we actually, so does each group of people is fairly represented? How is it represented in the data? Is the model actually amplifying or amplifying bias, present in the input data? Is the model providing a fair representation of subgroups in the recommendation that it has made to the company when it comes to recruitment and hiring? So this ethical aspect is being at the core of the solution that we are building, and that is actually translated in a skill mapping tool that will be accessed by companies. So that's the skill mapping tool that uses our skill repositories that is based on the innovative approach that we mentioned with the NLP and the neural networks. But we are answering various business applications with that skill mapping tool. So it's going to be a SaaS that we are building. So a software as a service that company can actually use to better understand their skills. So you have here 4 different business applications of what we are building right now with this API-based solution. So one of the business application, the business cases, is around the job ad generator. So as we mentioned, the idea, thanks to the normalization that we are currently working on, the idea is that the company should be able to write or to mention the various skills requirements, and based on these skills requirements, we will generate the right occupation title, the right job title. So it's really about this shift again, where we don't start from the job title, we start from the skills based, we start from the skills of the occupation. And hopefully we will limit the inconsistencies with that approach. The second business case, the second application that we have is around the career development plan. So the idea for us is to help the company in better understanding the skills landscape, better understanding how each of the jobs that they have internally is actually linked. All of these jobs that they have internally is linked to each other. So for instance, if you have 100 jobs in your company, you want to know how job A is linked to job B and what is the gap in terms of skills between the two. So our approach here, the second call that we will make is to understand how each of the jobs evolve within the company. What is the skills requirement for each of these jobs, so that we can plug and we can come and make, we can map the right training to each of the skills that needs to be found in the career development plan. That way, when a new hire is made, for instance, you can directly from the interview process already, answer the question, where will I be doing? What would I be doing in 5 years within a company? Where will I go? What kind of opportunities do you have for me? That way, we are able to support them in having a clear understanding of the various possibilities that exist for the employee and promote his development. The third call is around on the employee skills itself. It's important to also pinpoint the upskilling needs for each of these employees, pinpoint where the job is going, where the employee stands as of today, and see what kind of skill gap does the employee have, and again, come and map the trainings to these upskilling need. And the last call, last but not least, is around talent assessment. So it's about recruitment, it's about hiring. And what we do is that we analyze the different candidates that the company have for each of the vacancy, and we provide a sorted list of candidates from the person who matches the most to the person who matches the least, used with the unfairness metric, of course, that we have just shown before, and it's a skill-centric process. So we are truly focusing on skills and skills only. So everything around identity, everything around degrees, and other possible discrimination criteria are not taken into account. I had a couple of more slides, but I think we're just gonna skip through it. We are also working with education providers such as ECAM, and the idea with ECAM is to help them identify the skills that they need to put in their new curriculum. They are launching a new schools of IT, and we are helping them in identifying the skills that will shape the future of work, so that they will increase the attractivity of their program, and also ensure that they can close the gap between education and employment. Couple of projects. We worked with some career guidance. We worked with CRVI, so it's a Center for Professional Integration. We have helped them increasing the efficiency of the career support services, so that their immigrants can better understand the skills that are required in Belgium and make sure that they can promote themselves with the right CV and resume, and also, of course, reduce their length as an unemployed person. And then the ECAM I just mentioned, so we're helping them identifying the right skills that should be taught by their curriculum. And I think that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Leila. Thanks for your enthusiasm. We are running really late, so let's go straight to our final talk. I'm going to share again my screen, which is here. So the goal is essentially actually to present you one of the flagship projects in the Brussels region, which is the Fari Institute. We've got two speakers. Hans de Kank is co-director of Fari Institute, and Anne Noé, she's leading the AI lab of the VUB. Hans, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
So this will work better.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. So thank you for the having us, of course, in this session this afternoon. I think the previous presentations and examples are indeed showing not only the vibrant activity, but also the coherence of the innovative activities and potential of the Brussels Capital Region that are brought into place, and that it's something that is already existing. And the Institute Fari that we have established last year is also trying to make sure that this acceleration can continue. It is an initiative that we actually took a couple of years ago to bring the expertise together, but also indeed in the context of the fact that Brussels is a leading region in Europe when it comes to digital innovation, as already been shown by the presentation by the director of Innoveris, Stefan. But we believe that we could benefit for attracting even more international excellence to create that local impact, and making use of indeed the post-COVID-19 situation that we're on. We have many challenges to maybe make sure that we can relaunch our society or become really a society 5.0, so to speak, where we really bring the sustainable development goals at heart of our society and the digital transition that it will endeavor. And it is precisely that we actually want to see. How could AI contribute to make Brussels more sustainable, while not harming the achievement of sustainability in itself? And sustainability, looking at really all the 17 sustainable development goals. And that's really at the heart of the vision and the concept of the Institute. Why Brussels already actually has been explained by all the previous presenters. There's also, we're actually in Belgium, maybe also in a momentum where you see that forces are joining, and also on a local level within the Brussels region between different stakeholders. The notion of common good we see in a lot of debates and also in some of the companies' technical solutions, that common good is underlying, but it's really the focus. And we think that to achieve the SDGs, making use of AI, digital technology, the common good perspective should be put more at the front of it. And we see that, of course, other initiatives are popping up in Europe, but also elsewhere internationally to put trustworthy digital solutions at the core. The vision is shared. It's an ULB and VUB initiative. We joined forces with 10 core research groups, varying from AI, computer science, engineering to social science, economic science, and law. And we are as such actually building up a competence group of about 300 researchers that are working directly on or around AI, data, and robotics technology. Now, what is the main focus point? Of course, we're taking into account the priority areas of the regional innovation plan that already have been explained: climate and energy challenges, the resource optimization, mobility, health and well-being, but also in creating a more participatory and inclusive societies at the core. And therefore, we think that the FIRE targets and the research programs that are building up inside the FIRE Institute will be about two key flagship areas: urban and public AI. By closely working together with Brussels region and its administration, we think that we can close the gap between AI experts and the local stakeholders. On the other hand, the sustainable AI, data, and robotics challenge. The environment is one of the main examples, from energy consumption to raising awareness of the impact of technologies, and the FIRE researchers that are willing to lead and foster innovation research projects and activities. So these are really the main two concepts that are at heart of our institute. The institute is about research and innovation, but we also bring into this game and in this institute important innovation instruments to make that work. Actually, we really want to make sure that we reach out to society and to the citizens, Brussels citizens, and therefore we believe that we need also to build up an AI society and data tank facility and expertise to be able to reach out to the citizens, and also more than even before, offer test and experience facilities in the AI test and experience hub. The operational model of the Institute, you can actually compare it with other research and technology organizations. We really want to make sure that the Institute can become even more than now an interface between academia and society, specifically on the topic of AI, data, and robotics innovation, and really make that open innovation, or the so-called quadruple helix, work. And we think that one of the important instruments to make that work is, for example, building an AI test and experience hub facilities that actually allow living lab research interaction with end users, with citizens. Now, thanks indeed to the Green Deal, to the Next Gen Europe program and the Relance and Resilience facility funding, and thanks to Innoviris and the CEB administration, we are able to actually build that institute and bring it into action. And it has been selected as such by the Brussels Capital Region to do that. We're indeed, thanks to this funding, we're going to make sure that we can help the Brussels administration digital transition, but also that we can contribute to the digital innovation strategy on AI, that we actually have funding to contribute to the education hub that is already in place in Brussels, and that we indeed can collaborate between the research groups on new R&D programs. Now, the missions of the AI for the Common Good Institute are societal and economic, because we think it is even more now needed to bring the interdisciplinary scientific expertise and excellence that there is in Brussels together. Because as such, we can actually provide this guidance for innovation on artificial intelligence, but it also will create a cluster of economic activity in AI. Because we can actually attract existing players, stakeholders, not only within VUB and ULB, so not only within academia, but also within the ecosystem that we have in Brussels. And also develop new technology companies, of course, and bring it as such faster to the market. One important unique selling proposition of the Institute is indeed this engaging of these citizens. Why? Because we believe that's an important element to create responsible AI. So therefore, we're going to, for example, conduct civic deliberations in the upcoming 2 years, have a structured citizen panel in place, and also propose free services to citizens related to questions on AI and ethics. Our scientific leaders, both from ULB, VUB, are Professor Amoué, currently present, and also Professor Ubersini from IRIA from ULB. We already have set out several events. I think it's worth mentioning that during this European AI Week, FARI is involved with the organization of 15 sessions. And most importantly, I think that in July, there will be a public conference on the 5th and the 6th in Beaux-Arts, where you all are kindly invited to already share some first insights and results of our activities and further interacting, defining new opportunities. Now, what do? We collaborate with public actors, citizens and NGOs, but also with private actors, and working on local and long-term or intermediate challenges related to the common good. And we will look and we see if and how AI, data, and robotics technology can contribute to that. So it's not about techno-solutionism, but see if AI and how it actually can contribute to these challenges. Now, concretely, the activities on research and innovation, we are now developing 10 to 20 joint PhD tracks. It will be the establishment of 2 or 3 collaborative research projects among the stakeholders and the 10 core research groups. We develop a citizen science project and 4 pilot projects together with the Brussels administration. And there will be also a research exchange program. So that's specifically on research and innovation activities. Then there is a AI Academy or lifelong learning offering that is under development. 3 types of trainings are coming up and will be executed after the summer. Executive courses on AI, also a train-to-trainer session specifically for the different initiatives in Brussels that are already in place with GIFT training on AI, and also a postgraduate program. And then there are specific services to support the academia and government, as well as citizens, like, for example, the Citizen Ethics Hub, digital twin support, but also, as already mentioned by State Secretary Trachter, there will be an AI Service Development Center and test and experience infrastructure. Of course, Brussels is our environment, is our test environment, is our assets. So in Europe is also important, and the international coordination and collaboration across regions is for us important. And therefore, we as FARI are also sharing the Belgian office of Claire. Specifically towards companies, we have an entrepreneurship support program that will be delivered by the Buddha Institute from the VUB. And as from fall onwards, we will start an offering of services for researchers, entrepreneurs, and project leaders, also on ethics and legal support to give indeed also societal impact assessment tools, for example, to their offer. Small word about the test and experience facility. So the AI test and experience hub that will become in place. This is really an environment that we already are experiencing with on the VUB campus. So we have a VUB AI Experience Center already in place, where we indeed already have the experience in demonstrating, educating, and inspiring people on what AI is about, how you can apply it, what it can mean for your innovation and for your roadmap of your organization. At this stage, the AI Experience Hub will be developed and will come to be central. Therefore, I can announce that as from October onwards, so in the last quarter of this year, we will open a new AI Test and Experience Center in Be Central, where we actually also can further collaborate with consortium like European Digital Innovation Hub, Sustain Brussels, like said this morning by the State Secretary Tracht. So there is we hope that with FARI, there is a real contribution for us that we can actually as such contribute to the fact that we all know that AI expertise is scarce, and that we as such can actually make sure that also the lack of knowledge about AI can improve thanks to our activities that are really focused on, as shown earlier by the Director of Innovations. And we all know, and universities are very good at working on projects on TRL level 1, 2, 4, till 4. The Institute really wants to make sure that there is an interface and support of expertise to also work on TRL level 5, 6, and 7. And that's really what we hope to establish, so that the AI expertise inside the Brussels Capital Region can foster from the activities of the Institute. Now, to summarize, and also the fact that we are running out of time, I'm glad to actually have also Professor Anne Way in the panel. And in order to gain some time, I don't know, maybe you can share us a little bit how you see that AI research as lead of the VUB AI Lab. How do you think that, or can you share us how that FARI as an institute can contribute to the AI research, and also make indeed maybe AI research more ethical or more trustworthy?
Okay, I'll try to give my opinion here in a few sentences, because indeed we are running out of time. But indeed, I think the strength of FARI is really this interdisciplinary approach, and because we have research groups on board of different backgrounds, and this is really key to make successful AI applications. Because I think it's too often, AI is too often perceived as the AI is taking the decisions, but what we often, or what people often forget, is that we should tell the AI what needs to be optimized for. And you already mentioned that AI together with the local stakeholders. So for example, if we want to have an AI solution, let's say related to mobility, we won't be able to make everybody fully happy, and there will be some need for some kind of compromises. And then only then, when we have a good idea of what these compromises should be, we can tell the AI what needs to be optimized for, or alternatively, the AI can come up with different types of solutions, and then we can have this dialogue with the stakeholders, so that we can make a good choice, and also show there's limits. There is no magic. As I said, AI will not be able to make everybody perfectly happy. So this interaction, I think, is very important, and that's also what we want to show, for example, in the AI Experience Center, like you pointed out in Be Central. I think this is also the kind of things we need to show to people. AI is not a magic bullet, and we need to better understand the problem we want to solve, and what it can deliver to society, and also what are the limitations. So I really hope that we can bring this to the next level, and also it's not only about AI for the Sustainable Development Goals, but it's also for the good from that point of view, I would say. Yeah.
So I don't know, Jonathan, for the sake of timing, it's okay for us to stop here.
Yeah, I think if you want to respect a bit the other sessions running in parallel, we should close here. Anyway, I think there's multiple presentations from Fari here and there along the week. Hans, Karl, Anna are always available. So yeah, there'll be plenty of other occasions to discuss with you. Thanks to you, and I'd also to thanks a lot our speakers today and our attendees. And I hope you have a good AI week. Keep in touch. Good day.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See you.